My name is Meg Stratton, and I'm here to lead you through some restorative yoga poses. We're going to be holding each pose for a couple of minutes and just really getting in deep, using lots of props to help support us so we can be really comfortable and safe in this practice. We're going to be moving around with our bodies relatively cold, so it's important to use props. Even if you might be able to go all the way into a pose when you are warmed up, it might feel different when you're going into it without warming up first. So if you have a blanket you can grab, if you have a bolster, these things are awesome for getting into lots of poses. You can also just grab a couple small pillows or fold up a pillow. A firmer one will do a little better for you. Have something like that nearby. Blocks can be helpful as well. And you might want to pause and grab a few things, maybe grab yourself some tea, and just get yourself into a comfortable position. Find your way into a comfortable seat. You might sit up on the edge of a pillow or a folded up blanket. Just give your hips a little lift, tilt your pelvis forward a little bit. Rest your hands wherever it feels natural to do so. Press down with the sit bones. Get acquainted with all the places where your body touches the floor. Press into those places and then reach up through the crown of your head. Sit up tall. Let your shoulder blades be heavy down your back, dragging the shoulders down away from your ears. Let your eyelids shut down or rest your gaze lightly on the ground in front of you. And turn your attention inward. Start to notice all of the subtle sensations that you might not have the time to listen to on a day-to-day basis when you're busy with your life. Allow yourself some time here to slow down and feel and notice everything that you can. Notice any areas of the body that are calling it out for your attention. Without trying to change it in any way, direct your attention to your breath. Notice how the breath is moving in your body. Where does the body naturally create space for that inhale to go? And then what happens around that space as you exhale? As you inhale, feel for your capacity for breath. And then take a little pause at the top of your inhale to feel that fullness. And then as you exhale, take all the time that you need. Completely release that breath and then pause for a moment to feel that sense of being without breath. Noticing how the sensations are different at the top of your inhale versus the end of your exhale. There's no rush to get to the next round of breath. Let your awareness rest on the breath that you're currently on. And as many times as your mind wanders in this session, you can guide it back with this gentle reminder from the breath to feel that expansion. And to allow that tension to flow out of you as your breath flows out. And take just a couple more breaths in this way. Next time you inhale, fill yourself up. And then sigh that breath out through your mouth. Let it get audible. 2 more breaths like that. In through your nose and out through your mouth. And then open your eyes up. Let your right ear get heavy. Lean your ear over towards your right shoulder. Let the left side of your neck get long. And then reach that left hand out, pointing towards the ground. Draw some circles with your fingertips, rotating at that shoulder. Massaging your neck from the inside out here. It might feel nice to pause those circles and look down towards the ground on that right side, and maybe you continue circling again. Or maybe you change your gaze to look out or up. Just moving really mindfully and slowly. Being mindful of any areas that don't feel good to stretch into. And avoiding any areas of pain. Take a pause, reach out with the fingertips, reach out with the crown of your head. Rest your hand back down on your leg or the ground, and then roll your chin around to your chest. Take an inhale here, and then float your head back up to center. Take an inhale, press into the sit bones, reach up to the crown of the head, sit up taller. And then flip that left ear towards your left shoulder. Reach out with that right hand towards the ground. And draw some slow, small circles. In both directions. Pausing the circling to change your gaze, moving really slowly and mindfully. So if you do find any areas that don't feel good to stretch into, moving slow enough that you don't go too far. Leaning into where it feels good to stretch, and finding those circles again. Taking a few more rounds of breath in this way, switching those circle directions if you haven't already. And then rest that hand back down onto your leg. Roll your chin around down to your chest. And we'll half circle side to side, over to the right. And then over to the left. And switching a few more times. Coming back through center with your gaze. Leaning back, changing across the legs. Maybe find some ankle circles when you do so. Bringing the opposite leg in front. Bring your fingertips to the ground. Press them down to help you sit up even taller. Maintain that length in your spine as you inhale, the arms wide and high. Exhale, hands come down to your heart. Inhale the hands up through heart center. And then twisting to the right, bring your left hand either to the ground in front of you, the shin, or the opposite thigh. Right hand pressing down to the ground behind you to help support your long spine. Exhale to look out over that right shoulder. And inhale to just turn your head away. Turn your head very slowly and smoothly to look out over that left shoulder. And then exhale, belly button to spine, look back over the right. 2 more breaths here. Last one, in and out. And then we'll inhale to untwist. Just float your hands around back onto the legs or onto the ground beside you. Take an inhale into that long spine. Exhale, grounds the shoulder blades down. Next inhale, arms draw wide and high again. Exhale, twisting to the left. Left hand coming to the ground behind you. Right hand coming to the ground in front of you or the opposite thigh. Press down with that left hand to help you sit up taller. And then as you exhale, look out over that left shoulder. We'll inhale to turn just your head looking away, belly button away from the spine. Exhale, drawing the navel in as you turn your head back into that twist. Moving as you breathe. Last round of breath. And then inhale to untwist, facing forward. And then we're gonna bring the knees up. Use your hands to support yourself and hug the knees in, rounding your back. Take a couple of deep breaths into that rounding. And then sit up tall again. We're going to find our way into our first restorative pose. We're going to come onto the knees. And you can come right into a child's pose, reaching your hands forward. And it can be really nice to have something to rest either your forehead onto or your whole abdomen onto. So if you have a block or a pillow, you can rest your forehead on that if the ground is a little far away. Another option is to take a bolster or a few pillows, bring it between the knees, and bring your whole upper body down over the bolster. Maybe your head turns to the side, or maybe you give yourself enough space so that your head can lean off the edge. If you do so, I would definitely give yourself something to rest the forehead onto. Extend the arms out long. Take a deep inhale here. And then as you exhale, let your hips and forehead get heavier. Just surrender all of your weight down into your props, down into the floor, allowing gravity to have an effect. Any muscles that don't need to be working here, just release them. If at any point this becomes too much on the knees, you can also do this pose on your back with your knees into your chest, maybe draping a blanket over the top of you. Or another option, if you're still enjoying laying over the bolster, you can just straighten the legs back out behind you and just enjoy being on your belly here. Take some deep breaths here. And take notice of how the breath moves in the body in this position. There's not as much space for the belly to expand in this pose. So what happens if you push the belly into the bolster and allow that expansion to happen out to the sides and into the back body? Expanding as you inhale and cultivating more softness through the muscles as you exhale. In restorative yoga, we use the props to hold the structure of the pose so that we can focus on letting go and breathing. By taking these long, slow, deep breaths, we signal to our nervous system it's time to slow down, to move out of that fight or flight mode, and to allow ourselves some time to practice being in that parasympathetic mode of our nervous system, where we rest and digest and heal. We'll take about 5 more breaths here. Continuing to allow the breath to make changes. You're always free to stay a little extra long. You're always free to come out of pose a little early. Just honoring how your body's feeling. Listening to the body's subtle messages. Your body trying to tell you what it needs to be safe, what it needs to heal. Taking your time, but slowly starting to gather the hands back underneath the shoulders. Use your arms to very slowly support you as you come back upright, and allow yourself some feeling breaths as you first come out of this pose. There's no rush. For our next pose, we're going to come into another forward fold with the legs out wide. We're going to add in lots of props here. I have lots of options for props. I suggest sitting on the edge of a blanket to help tilt your pelvis forward. It'll give you a little head start in your forward fold. Give the knees and low back some support. If right here already your hamstrings are screaming at you, listen to them. Feel free to place pillows, or if you have blocks, underneath each knee or underneath each thigh. That's an option here. Another option here is just to bring your feet to the ground and have the knees pointed upwards. We're going to be coming forward here, and this right here is already a forward fold. You might be feeling it already. If you have a bolster, you can take the bolster upright and rest your chin so that your upper body and your neck and your arms don't really have to work at holding you here, and you can just rest into that bolster and allow it to support you. You can also find a diagonal angle with that bolster and rest your forehead. If you want a little more, you can find a diagonal angle here Maybe you have a block underneath the end. You can lay your upper body down. If you want a little more, you can lose the block or just use the block. And just bring yourself forward. If you find your edge with your forward fold, I'd say come up a few inches from that, so that you still have space to breathe, so the pose still has some space to evolve. And again, we'll hold this pose for a few minutes. So set yourself up to be comfortable, set yourself up with support. Maybe you can find a position where the arms don't need to be engaged, or the fingers don't need to be gripping. Allow the forehead or the chin to be heavy. Scanning throughout the body and noticing any muscles that are still engaged, still resisting gravity. And see if you can consciously convince them to soften. The answer might be no today, and that's okay. That tensing of the muscles when you first get into a pose, it's there to protect you. That instinct happens without even thinking about it. Bodies are amazing. That might be a sign that you need to add in an extra prop. We'll take about 5 more breaths here. And then when you're ready, there's no rush. Start to gather your hands back in to grab hold of your bolster or press into the ground. And use your arms to support you as you come back upright. Take a few feeling breaths when you first come upright, feeling those residual effects of the pose. And then we're going to send the knees off to one side together. Grab hold of your pillows or your bolster and bring your bolster right up close to one of your hips. So your knees are facing one way, your bolster's right up close to your hips, and your feet are facing away from that bolster. Turn to face that bolster to find a little twist. We're going to come down and give that bolster a big hug. So if you would like a different angle to aim that bolster, feel free to do so. Make your spine really long and then lay yourself down. Give that bolster a hug. Turn your gaze in the same direction as the knees. You might turn your gaze down, or you might turn it the opposite way. But if you do turn it the opposite way, notice your neck and shoulders just grip up. Then keep your gaze the same direction as your knees. And then you can reassess with how your lower body feels. You might keep the knees closer together. You might stagger that top leg back. You might even reach through that top heel, extending that leg behind you. Make any little adjustments you need. You might come up and down a few times to find that right angle. Take an inhale here. And as you exhale, sigh that breath out through your mouth. And then inhale and exhale through your nose. Scanning for any muscles that are still gripping that you could let go of. Letting the feet be soft. Letting the muscles around the legs be soft. The hips, the belly, the back, the chest, the arms. Notice if your fingers are still gripping and release them. Soften through your jaw and your temples. Allow yourself some deeply restful breaths here. And start to direct your attention to your belly. Direct your breath to your belly. Feel your belly expand in every direction as you inhale. Notice if you feel any resistance to that breath as you take that breath in. See what happens if you push into that resistance a little bit and take an even bigger breath. We'll take 3 more breaths here. And then gather your hands to come underneath your shoulders again. Use your arms to support you as you slowly come up. And even slower, untwist. Just turn to face away from your bolster and hug your knees into your chest. Take a few feeling breaths here. And the easiest way to come into the other side is just sending your knees to the other side. Scooting your opposite hip up close to the bolster. Lengthen your spine. And then lay yourself down over that bolster. Feel free to come up and down a couple times to find that right angle. Feel free to experiment with some different arm positions or some different directions your gaze is pointing. Maybe you stagger the legs or keep them together. Try it out and see how it feels and let your sensations be your guide. Honoring how you feel. And once you find your position, take a deep breath in through your nose and sigh that breath out through your mouth, releasing any residual tension that you can. And then just feel the breath moving in and out through the nostrils. Belly expanding in all directions as you inhale. And everything deflating and softening as you exhale. Allowing for less resistance when your next breath comes in. Expand and soften. And bring your awareness to your navel. Drawing it away from your spine as you inhale. And then pulling it back into your spine as you exhale. Pushing into any resistance you feel to the breath due to the pose you're in. And see if you can find those extra spaces that the breath can flow into. We'll take 3 more breaths here. And then very slowly start to gather your hands back in under your shoulders. Use your arms to slowly support you coming up, and then even slower untwisting. And again, hug your knees into your chest and take a few deep breaths with your spine untwisted. Take another rounded breath. And sit up really tall. From here, we're going to remove all the props for this next pose. Bring yourself all the way onto your belly. And let's start out by stretching out the belly, coming onto the forearms into a Sphinx pose. The forearms are in an 11 shape. Just stretching out the belly, stretching out the core muscles, the chest, maybe the throat, looking up. Lengthen the back of the neck, shoulder blades down the back. Take another deep inhale here. And as you exhale, we're going to slide the hands out. So you're coming into kind of like a Superman flying position. Turn your gaze to one side, let's say the right side. Bend that right elbow and knee out to the side. And this is flopping fish pose. You can use that left hand to support your head or your face, or you can take that left arm and bring it down by your left hip, palm face up. Whatever feels best in your body. Your head is resting down here. If you want a little more, you can draw that right knee out away from you a couple inches, or maybe you flex the foot and reach that heel out away from you as well. Moving towards a straight leg. And then let go into gravity. Allow the ground to be your prop here. Allow your body to surrender down into gravity, pressing into the ground. You can think of sending your breath into that right hip to expand there as you inhale. And soften there as you exhale, almost as if you had another set of lungs in that right hip. Allow change to happen. Allow this pose to evolve as you breathe. And then we'll take 3 more breaths on this side. There's no rush. When you're ready, we'll turn the gaze back to center, straighten out that right arm and leg. And then turn your gaze, look over that left shoulder, bending that left knee out to the side. So the inside of the knee, the inside of the ankle, and the inside of the elbow are all pointed down. And that right hand now can do anything you need to support you. Maybe you support your head that way, maybe you bring your hand by your side. And then bring your awareness into that left hip. And imagine that you could expand the breath into that left hip as you inhale. And then soften back down more into gravity as you exhale, releasing. So with each breath, you're allowing a subtle change or shift. So the pose that we end up in is very different than the pose that you start in. See what intuitive changes you can make as you inhale and exhale here. Take 3 more breaths here. And then straighten out through that left side. Bring your gaze back to center. Bring your elbows out to the sides. Rest your head on your stacked hands and bend your knees. Sending your heels side to side. Releasing the low back with a little wiggle of the hips side to side as you rock. And then find a few breaths of stillness here, resting your head down. Bring yourself back upright. Come back into your Sphinx pose with your arms. Center that left arm out. Bring that right hand around back to grab hold of your pant leg or your right foot. And you can either kick the foot into your hand, helping to roll that shoulder back and lift it, or you can bend your knee a little more and pull your foot down towards the ground. If that hurts the knee at all, don't do it. Take a deep breath in here. And then exhale, release, and we'll switch arms. So bring that right arm kind of to the center of your chest on the ground. Reach that left arm around back. Maybe you kick the foot into your hand, opening across the chest. Or maybe you surrender that heel down towards the ground, paying attention to your knee. Take another breath in here. And then exhale, release. We're going to army crawl the arms back, come back up onto the knees. Take a moment here in your child's pose. But this time, bring your hands, palms face up by your feet. Take a handful of breaths here. This is embryo pose. And we'll just take 3 more breaths. Send your hands out in front of you, palms face down. Walk your hands over to the left, lengthening that right side of the body. And then we're going to lift up that right thumb and turn your palm all the way up. And then lean that right hip out to the side a little bit here. Breathing into that right side stretch. One more inhale. And then turning your palm back under, walking your hands back through center, and then over to the right. And then take that left thumb and lift it up. Turn your palm up all the way, and then lean into that left hip. Stick it out to the side a little bit. Take a couple breaths into the sensation along that left side of the body. Take one more inhale. And then as you exhale, turn your palm back down, center your hips, and walk your hands back through center. Then we're going to come into a seated position. So bringing the legs around. Lots of options here I'll give you. If you have a bolster or pillows, you're going to place that bolster or pillows behind you and scoop that pillow or bolster right up close to your hips. If your low back is talking to you a little bit today, I'd also pad underneath your seat, so your seat's lifted a little bit. Bring your feet to the ground. And we're going to lay ourselves back over that bolster. You want to make sure your head is supported as well. Take a moment and tuck your pelvis, hip bones up towards the ribs, lengthening your low back, and then set your hips down. And an option here to keep the knees bent. You can rest the knees in on each other to make that a little more restorative. You can lengthen the legs out long where they are. Or you can walk the feet together, open the knees up to the sides, and place a blanket, a block, or props underneath both thighs so they're supported. And then checking in with your upper body. Your hands can be on your belly, by your sides, or out to the sides, any amount. Feel free to also support underneath your arms so that they feel supported. If your head feels like it's really hanging out back here, feel free to give it a little lift, a little pillow underneath it. So we want the spine and the space around the spine to be supported by this prop, but the side body and the shoulders and the arms are kind of melting over the sides of your prop. So if your pillow's a little too wide, you might roll it up or fold it up. Just make sure it's not lopsided. Take a deep breath in through your nose and sigh that breath out through your mouth. And then feel that breath moving in and out of the nostrils. And just let your body go into gravity. Allow yourself to be supported so that you can melt down towards the ground. Imagine your whole body starting to melt like an ice cube. Just becoming liquid. More and more like water. Less and less like stone. Bring your awareness to the space around your rib cage. Use your breath to create space in between the ribs. Expanding, pressing into those intercostal muscles as you inhale. And everything's softening as you exhale. Allowing for softer muscles to breathe into on your next breath in. Really exaggerating that movement of the space around your heart as you inhale and exhale for these last few rounds here. Take 3 more breaths, holding here. Next time you inhale, reach your arms out wide. Reach out through your fingertips. Take up space. And then as you exhale, reach your arms across your body. Reach your hands for your opposite shoulders. Maybe you walk your fingertips closer towards your back. Maybe you walk your fingertips closer towards each other. Grip your fingertips in as you exhale and inhale into that stretch. Take a couple deep breaths here. Next time you inhale, open the arms back up. Remember which arm is on top. And we're going to switch opposite arm on top. Reaching for opposite shoulders, maybe opposite shoulder blades. Take an exhale and then grip your fingertips down and breathe into that stretch for a few rounds. Take 3 more breaths. And then release your arms. Bring your hands down to support your legs if they're apart, and bring your knees back together. Bring your feet to the ground regardless. Feel free to take a moment and tick-tock your knees side to side here. And then rolling off to one side, holding your head and your arm for a breath or two. Allowing yourself a slow transition out of that pose. Use your arms to support you as you bring yourself back upright. And then we're going to make our way onto our backs. Keep that bolster or blanket, pillow handy. Lay yourself down. Take that bolster underneath your thighs, underneath your knees, so that your legs can just rest down onto that bolster. Feel free to grab a blanket to cover yourself up with. Feel free to take a blanket or a pillow underneath your head. And we're going to lay ourselves down. Feel free to take a moment to bring your knees into your chest and find some rocking. If you'd rather Lay on your side for your Shavasana. If that's more comfortable for you, you can lay on your side and bring your leg up onto a bolster, your top leg onto a bolster. This is great if you're pregnant and laying on your back is counterindicated, or if it's just not comfortable. You can also take Shavasana laying on your belly, maybe over the bolster, and resting your head down on that. Just make yourself very comfortable. Set yourself up in a position where you can completely let go. This is the last pose that I'll guide you through in this practice. This is your final resting pose for your Shavasana, corpse pose. Let every muscle in the body soften unless it needs to be working to help you breathe. Let go of controlling your breath in any way and just let it flow. Allow yourself this time of some deep rest. Tuning into those subtle messages your body is still giving you. Giving yourself a few last moments here to just be. Allowing the benefits of your practice to be absorbed. Allow yourself a few more moments to just be. Feel free to stay here as long as you like. It's been an honor to lead you in your practice. Thank you so much for joining me. Namaste.